You ever have those albums in your collection by bands you like a lot? And most other people seem to really dig these albums. And you stop and you think to yourself, I really, really should like this album more than I do. But I just don't. I really want to like this album more than I do. And I find it just doesn't happen for a variety of reasons. So I was thinking about this whole concept recently. And I said, gee, can I pick out 20 albums from bands I dig a lot that I really should like more than I do? That no matter how hard I try, I'm always kind of lukewarm on these records. I want to love them. I really do. And I know lots of people do. I just don't. I don't hate any of them. This is not a hate show. I don't really hate any of these albums. I like them enough, but I want to love them. And I keep wondering, what am I missing that everybody else is hearing here? So I'm going to go through these 10 albums. So you've heard me talk about all these bands and artists before, for the most part. And, some of these may be kind of obvious. Some you might be kind of surprised. So I'm just going to, there are no real order here. I'm just going to go, I just grabbed the stack of them and I'm just going to kind of go through them one at a time. The first one is Deep Purple, Slaves and Masters. Now, I remember when this first came out, I was kind of intrigued by this because I was like, all right, well, I love Rainbow. I like Joe Lynn Turner quite a bit in Rainbow. Now he's in Deep Purple with the rest of the guys. Kind of sounds like Rainbow. As a Rainbow album, it's not too bad. As a Deep Purple album, over the years, I've just kind of decided that I don't really care for it all too much. I don't hate it. There's some good songs on here. King of Dreams is great. Fire in the Basement is really good. Too Much Is Not Enough. They're mostly nice kind of Rainbow songs. But as a Deep Purple album, it just kind of misses the mark for me. There's really nothing bad about it. I never reach for it. As much as I try, and I know lots of people who love this record, it's okay. I never really accepted it. I still don't to this day for whatever reason. Don't dislike it, but it's okay. Here's one. Grand Funk Railroad, Phoenix. Now, I really love all of the Grand Funk albums leading up to this. They bring in Craig Frost to play organ and keyboards, make it a 4-piece. I like pretty much all the albums that come after it a lot. So this should be a meeting in the middle between the more raw, heavier Grand Funk stuff and the more polished kind of commercial sounding Grand Funk stuff that would start with American Band, right? I don't know. I've always been kind of like lukewarm on this album. There's really not a lot. You got Rock and Roll Soul is on here. It's a really good tune. But most of the other stuff is just doesn't really move me. There's really nothing on here that like stands out and say, that's a classic Grand Funk track, other than Rock and Roll Soul. Freedom is for Children, Trying to Get Away, Someone, She Got to Move Me, I Just Gotta Know. Decent enough songs. Nothing really, though, clicks with me then or now. I like it. It's okay. But this will never be one of the higher ranking Grand Funk albums for me, as much as I've tried. All right, Dio, Sacred Heart. Love the first 2 albums. Absolute classics. Last album with Vivian Campbell, right? Should be another classic. Yeah. I like Dream Evil way better than I do this one. This, to me, is the Dio band getting a little bit too commercial sounding. It's a little too poppy. Maybe it sounds like a retread of the first 2 albums, but not quite as heavy. There's some good songs on here. King of Rock and Roll is a terrific opener. This lineup could not do a bad opener, right? Title track, Sacred Heart, is really good. Yeah, Rock and Roll Children, it's okay. Hungry for Heaven, it's another Rainbow in the Dark. Like the Beat of a Heart's pretty good. Fallen Angels, Shoot Shoot, it's pretty good. It's not great. I want to love it. It always ranks fairly low on the list of Dio albums for me, though, because I love that lineup, right? Love it. Ultimate Sin, Ozzy Osbourne. Again, love the first 2 albums. Those are never beaten as far as I'm concerned. Bark at the Moon, really good. Pretty good. Lightning Strikes, Killer of Giants is a great song. Thank God for the Bomb, Shot in the Dark, that's a pretty catchy song, right? Title track, pretty good. Secret Loser, Never Know Why, Fool Like You, Never, kind of mediocre to me. Want to love it because I love Jakey Lee, right? Ultimately I don't. Judas Priest, Point of Entry. Again, some good songs on here. I know a lot of people who really, really love this album. It's never been high up on my list. I don't dislike it. Every time I try to come up with reasons why I just never been a big fan, I have a hard time because there's some great songs on here. Heading Out to the Highway is a great anthem. Desert Plains is great. Solar Angels, good. Don't Go, hot rockin', fun, yeah. But when you look at everything that came before it, right, and then what comes right after it, to me it kind of like sticks out like, they kind of lost their way just a little bit. They wanted to take the commercialism of British Steel to another level. Maybe they went a little too far. Again, some good songs on here. Production doesn't help either. It's a little light sounding. You want a little bit more cranking guitars. Songwriting-wise, though, not bad. Some good stuff on here. It's just never been one of my favorites. I want to love it. So many people do. Here we go. Journey, Raised on Radio. Girl Can't Help It is a terrific song. Be Good to Yourself is a terrific song. Title track was all right. I'll Be All Right Without You. That's a great single. The problem is, other than those hits, the singles on here, I find the rest of it just kind of generic and unmemorable. But I love those singles. They're so good. But I find there's less guitar firepower on this album. It's definitely more of a Steve Perry album, I guess. And he's great, don't get me wrong. But I find that this album is missing a little grit of the albums that came before it. And maybe there's none of the absolute genius of Escape and Frontiers. But like I said, those 3 tracks, Girl Can't Help It, Be Good to Yourself, and I'll Be All Right Without You, really good songs. Really good pop songs for Journey. But it never ranks all that high for me as an album goes. I much prefer their bigger albums with Steve Perry and the earlier stuff. Maybe it's just me. All right, Bruce Springsteen's The River. I love his 70s stuff. I really do. I like double albums quite a bit. This may be a little too bloated of a double album. I think if I take all the stuff on here that I really like, Jackson Kane, Ties That Bind, Two Hearts, Hungry Heart I'm so tired of, right? Point Blank is great. I'm a Rocker, Cadillac Ranch I'm kind of tired of. I think The River's a great song, the title track. I think if you whittle this down to a single album, I'd probably really like it or love it. As a double album, I like it. I don't love it. I want to love it. I mean, this should be his magnum opus for me. A couple albums that came before this I absolutely love, right? I don't know. Here's one I loved back in the day when I first got it. I found as the longer time goes on, I like it less. Love at First Sting by the Scorpions. Man, I'd listen to this a ton back in the day. I have a hard time going back to it now. I still think Rock You Like a Hurricane is a great song. Bad Boys Running Wild's pretty good. I'm Leaving You, meh. Coming Home, it's okay. The Same Thrill, it's okay. Big City Nights, I can't listen to anymore. As Soon as the Good Times Roll, never a big fan of that. Crossfire is okay. Still Loving You, can't really listen to anymore. A little too poppy for me. I want more heavy metal Scorpions. And this was a huge album. Like I said, I was hugely into it back in the day. I find today I don't really have a lot of use for it, unfortunately. Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Works, the first one. All right. A side of Keith Emerson, a side of Greg Lake, a side of Carl Palmer, and then a side of Emerson, Lake and Palmer. I think as time goes on, Give Me Fanfare for the Common Man and Pirates as ELP, the full band side. I like that. The rest of it, I never have a need to listen to. Just don't. Should like anything they put out, right? Before Love Beach. And Works 2 is even less interesting to me. I just think this sounds like a band that's just kind of going through the motions, wanting to do solo stuff, and I just want to hear more band, right? Because Brain Salad Surgery was so great. This is good in spots. Solo stuff is fine for what it is. I never have a need to listen to it. Wings, Paul McCartney Wings, London Town. Maybe a case of just too many songs. It's just a little too mellow. Not enough like instantaneous hits. London Town is the title track is really good. Cafe on the Left Bank I like. Backwards Traveler, that's okay. I've had enough. Pretty good rocker. With a Little Luck is a terrific song. That's what I want to hear. Famous Groupies, it's okay. Morse Moose and the Grey Goose, that's a pretty intriguing song, very different. The rest of it's kind of filler to me. It doesn't sound like a band anymore at this point. It just basically sounds like Paul, Linda, and Denny just writing some soft rock pop songs and whatnot. I want the band Wings back. The next album would bring back the band and the rock and roll. Grateful Dead, American Beauty. I like most of the Grateful Dead albums quite a bit. I find this to many people is their most beloved album. I find I am not as much into the whole country blues phase that they went through as most other people are. It's got Box of Rain, Friend of the Devil, Sugar Magnolia, all great songs. Ripple's on here. Truckin's on here. I prefer the earlier psychedelic era and the Grateful Dead jazz fusion and prog era that comes shortly thereafter this, as more than I do this little country blues era. It's just me. It's just a little too laid back and kind of like kicking the tires type of thing. I don't hate it. And I like this stuff better in a live format, but I find these couple albums they did around this time, they're just a little too bluesy country for me. I like the more experimental Grateful Dead. I want to hear Blues for Al. I want to hear Terrapin Station. I want to hear Oxomoxo. I want to, the Mars Hotel. That's what I like. That's the Grateful Dead I want to hear. I should love it, right? Most people do. Here's a strange one. George Harrison, All Things Must Pass. Many people cite this as one of the greatest albums of all time, possibly even the greatest Beatles solo album of all time. I really like parts of it. Again, another one of those long albums that I think would have been better served as being a single. I know that's kind of blasphemy. I do like it. I want to love this with everything in me. I do like it. This is one of those albums that I think I do enjoy, I do like, but I want it to be one of my favorite albums of all time. So many people worship this record. And I find that I enjoy it, but I want more, I want more. My Sweet Lord is good. What Is Life is one of the greatest songs of all time. That I wish I got more out of this album like I do from that song. I want like so many songs on here to hit me like What Is Life does. It doesn't really though. Beware of Darkness is terrific. Wawa's kind of fun. My Sweet Lord, like I said, there's some good stuff on here. Let It Down. I want to love this more than I do. But I will say this 50th anniversary set, which has all sorts of goodies on it, is pretty damn good. Makes me close to loving it. Yeah. I want to think that, yes, Tales from Topographic Oceans is one of the great double albums of all time. I mean, what's not... how much I love classic, big, long, epic tracks in prog rock. What do you got here? 4 big, long, epic tracks. It's a little too long and overblown for me. I do like lots of parts of it. Like I said, if you were to take some of the best stuff, my favorite stuff from Topographic Oceans, and make like a, 50-minute album out of everything that's on here, that's one of the great Yes albums of all time. As it is, there's just a little too much here. A little too much that kind of just goes whoosh, right over my head. But, there's lots of good pieces on here for sure. I know people love it. A lot of people call it one of the greatest prog rock albums of all time, and that's cool. Not quite that for me. I wish it was. I really wish it was. And I love the album artwork. I love the whole concept of the whole thing. It just doesn't quite work for me. Kansas Vinyl Confessions. New singer, new album, little bit of a change in direction, more accessible. Elefante's a great singer. I like Play the Game Tonight. I like Right Away. I like Fair Exchange. The rest of it, Diamonds and Pearls, is okay. It's okay. It's a little too nice. I'm missing the kind of like the little more dense rockin' Kansas on here. It's like they're going more towards a more commercial direction, and it's just missing something for me. I know a lot of people really love it a lot. I don't dislike it, but I don't know. Audio Visions had a lot of that. Even though Audio Visions was less of a prog, I'd argue there's a little more prog on this album than there was on Audio Visions, but Audio Visions still sounded like a real kick-ass Kansas album. This is a little light. That's okay. I like it. I don't love it. I want to love it. Van Halen, Diver Down. I've sort of had it in for this album from the get-go. And I think at the time, Van Halen was such a big band in 1982. And I didn't really become a really big Van Halen fan until afterwards, till a little bit later in the decade. And I think that, there were other bands I really liked a lot in 82. And you had, when I was going to school, you had your Van Halen fans, you had your Sabbath fans, your Maiden fans, your Priest fans, right? And they didn't always mesh. And there were other bands that I liked way more than Van Halen. I remember when this came out, everybody was like, oh, new Van Halen, new Van Halen. I'm like, all right, well, you got Pretty Woman, Where Have All the Good Times Gone, a bunch of Dancing in the Street, a bunch of little short things. Oh, yeah. And a couple of cool songs. Hang 'Em High is terrific. Little Guitars is amazing. The Full Bug is lots of fun. I always felt like there's not much else here. Granted, the cover of Oh Pretty Woman is really good. All these years later, I really appreciate it. Back in the day, I couldn't stand it. And I find it's just short. It seems like they're short on ideas. Too many covers, too many little pieces, a couple really great tracks. It's the original lineup. I love all the other albums. I just don't quite love this one. I have this block that's like, I can't love this album for these reasons. But I can love a couple of the songs, and I absolutely do. All right, nearing the end here. UFO, No Place to Run. First studio album post Michael Schenker leaving. Paul Chapman, otherwise known as Tonka, comes into the band. It's produced by a legend for George Martin at AIR Studios. There's really good songs on here. I just always thought the production was very tame. I always thought that George Martin is great working with certain bands, specifically one band, right? But working with this band, it just didn't mesh for me. Again, Mystery Train is great. Fire Burns Tonight. No Place to Run, the title track. Money, Money. There's a lot of really good, well-written, catchy hard rock songs on here. Man, where's the guitar thump? Where's the fiery guitar solos? At the time, I was just so let down by Schenker no longer being in the band that I had a hard time accepting this new lineup. I grew to really enjoy this lineup, but I prefer the production of the next couple of albums with Tonka as opposed to this. This might have the better songs, but I want more firepower, and I just don't kind of get it. I want to love it because the songs are so good. It's one of the very few times I will say that where a production kind of hampers my enjoyment of an album. That generally isn't always the case, but a lot of people really love it. I like it. I want there to be a little more than that. All right, The Who by Numbers. I guess trying to live up to Tommy, Who's Next in Quadrophenia. It's hard. Pete obviously complained that he was running low on ideas here. And there's some really good stuff on here too. Slipgid is fun. Squeezebox is really fun. Dreaming from the Waist, However Much I Booze. Yeah, it's fun. The rest of it, it's okay. I think it's kind of like, at this point in time, after all the greatness that came before it, it's kind of The Who, not by numbers, but The Who light. Maybe by numbers they're just, I don't know. The Who grasping at straws. I don't know. I know a lot of people really respect this album. I respect it because it's a Who album from the classic era, the original band. I just think it could have been maybe a little better, and I think Pete is slipping a little bit as far as running out of ideas. I like it. I respect it. I don't love it, though. I want to. I even think the cover's kind of fun, right? All right, bottom two, granddaddies of all of them, right? These are albums that by all means, I should just be completely in love with. Pink Floyd, The Wall. You've heard me talk about it before. I really, really love parts of it. Again, I have a few double albums. Don't it's not like I'm against double albums because I love a lot of double albums. Just some of the ones that I picked here just don't really, through and through, don't really work for me 100%. I've long talked about my interesting predicament and relationship with The Wall. Again, I love Pink Floyd. All the stuff that came before it, especially in the 70s, massive fan of. We got 25, 26 tracks on here. I could easily tell you that 15 to 20, I'm totally fine with. To me, it's just kind of long. I'm not as invested in the story. And it's so dominated by Roger Waters in spots. But I really like a lot of it. The performances are great. The next album, the one that comes after this, I don't like at all. I at least like a good chunk of this. But I want to look at The Wall like everybody else does. Everybody else looks through eyes that see The Wall as an absolute drop-dead classic, one of the great albums of all time, double or single album. I want to feel that way. But when I think about it and I listen to The Wall, I'm like, yeah, it's pretty good. There's some great tracks on here. But I'd rather be listening to Animals, Wish You Were Here, Dark Side of the Moon, or Metal. Sorry. And last but certainly not least, Black Sabbath, Never Say Die. I should love it, right? Because it is the original lineup. It's from the 70s. But I don't, because the band were a mess at the time. They were practically ready to explode and implode at the seams. Ozzy wasn't into it. You got saxophone on a blues track on a Black Sabbath album. Doesn't work. I think Never Say Die is a really good song. I always like that. Johnny Blade, Junior's Eyes, Hard Road. Hard Road is okay, I guess. But like Shockwave, Air Dance, Over to You, Breakout, Swinging the Chain, I pretty much don't. The whole second half of the album just doesn't really do much for me at all. And I want to, because again, it is something different. And I can appreciate Sabbath doing something different. I think they kind of started that on Technical Ecstasy. I even don't drop dead love Technical Ecstasy. That might have been a better pick here, actually, because that's an album I probably really should love. And I do love a good chunk of it. But, it's a Sabbath record. And I hate the fact that there's a Sabbath album or more than one that I absolutely don't love. And I never loved it. I want to, because again, I know a lot of people that I'm very close to that think this is a magnificent album. I wish my ears would allow me to hear that. Again, there's a couple songs I like. The first 4 songs I can deal with. The rest of it, yeah, I want to. I should love it because it's Sabbath. I should. Maybe someday. Maybe I'll wake up and I'll be 65 years old and I'll play this and I'll be like, it just clicked with me. I get it now. It's not happening just quite yet. I want to, though. So, those are my 20. Maybe you have some albums by bands you really love a lot, that a lot of your friends and people and other music people really love by those bands. But for you, you try, but you just can't love them. You don't hate them. You should like them. You really should. You really want to. But there's just something about them that just kind of stops you a little bit. It's like it's like a measured thing. It's like, yeah, okay, no, can't love this one. Here's the reasons why. You can like it a little bit, but you can't love it. So let us know what some of yours are down in the comments below. And remember, it's all in fun, right? I know there's probably plenty of people watching who love all these albums or most of them I name, and that's totally cool. Like I said, I don't absolutely hate any of them. Some of them I just don't care for all that much. Some of them I like parts of. I really want to love them. That's the theme, right? We want to love them. Until next time, visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube all together. All the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that notification bell so you get alerted of all of our content as a post. And please do hit the like button before you leave. Also down below we got the links to our Ko-Fi page, our channel donations, our merch page, our Cameo page, and the Sea of Tranquility membership options all down below. Thanks in advance for all your support there, and we'll see you soon here with more stuff. I am Pete Pardo. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.